welcome to another video on both Laura and Marco. And as always, we're going to be starting with the system closer to land or closer to the U.S. here. Tropical Storm Marco, 70 mile per hour winds, but we'll get into that. And here is where Laura is located now over the Dominican Republic. But we're first going to be getting in, like I was saying, into Marco, which is now entering the eastern or the central Gulf of Mexico. So here's a look at Marco, where it's currently located. Winds of 70 mile per hour, a minimal central pressure of 993 millibars as of the latest advisory. National Hurricane Center has said that Marco is nearing hurricane strength as it crosses the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. So we could see this very shortly becoming our third hurricane. So this has been a pretty long way coming through right between the Yucatan and Cuba, and it is now heading into the Gulf of Mexico and nearing the coast of Louisiana. Here's what Marco currently looks like. Not the biggest system, it's rather small, not the most organized either, but a pretty well-defined strong tropical storm with some strong convection there near the center of the system here. So we do continue to notice that with the low pressure center being around here with that system. We do have some pretty nice banding to the south, maybe some banding to the north starting to create there. But it's really a very small system there. So once again, you can see the coast of Cuba there, the Yucatan Peninsula, and then the coast of Florida and Tampa Bay there, which could be getting some rain and showers from that system as we get into the later part of the day as it moves almost due north there. As we look at the motion, it seems to be pretty much going due north at the moment. Not northwest or northeast, just due north there. So right now it hasn't really taken a slight turn to the east or to the west, my bad. But we could see this happening soon. But convection is persisting. We can even see some pinks and purples there, which includes very, very tall convection. Also pink and purples there on that southern band of the system there. So a fairly organized system, which could soon become a hurricane, but we'll see when that does end up happening. Here's the current track from the National Hurricane Center, and they do expect this to become a hurricane very shortly, latest tomorrow, but they do expect this to be a hurricane by tonight. And we do have hurricane warnings for the coast of Louisiana here. Tropical storm warnings extending into Mississippi, tropical storm watches in Alabama, and more tropical storm or hurricane watches in Louisiana. So we are starting to see those appearing as the system is likely to make landfall in Louisiana and curve towards the west there, impacting maybe Texas with some heavy rains. But as you can see, once again, the wind field is rather small, and if we take this very small wind field there, we should only see tropical storm forward winds in this tiny little area here, which is obviously good news that we don't have a massive wind field that could impact most of Louisiana there. Now into the spaghetti models. They're getting more and more certain on where this will go. Louisiana is clustered with spaghetti models there, but the models have shifted a little bit more towards maybe a landfall on the eastern part of Louisiana there instead of the more western part of Louisiana as it continues to move pretty much due north and take that turn towards the east according to the models there. I do expect this to make landfall on the Mississippi-Louisiana border there most likely, and then start to take that turn towards the northeast there. So that is something I do expect as well. And once again, anywhere on the pretty much this entire area here should be on alert here for potential impacts from this system, even spreading out all the way to the Texas border there, because Marco has been pretty unpredictable. We've seen it level off after its period of rapid intensification, now staying at around 65 to 70 miles per hour. So we really haven't seen it strengthen a whole lot more, but I'll get into that on the next slide there. Intensity guidance. Most models no longer show it becoming a hurricane, and most models don't show it strengthening a whole lot more. Right now, it has winds of 70 miles per hour, and as you can see, models don't really show it strengthening a whole lot more, and just show it completely, really going down rather fast in the next 24 hours. And if we compare that to the models, the next 24 hours is right before landfall. So they really show it starting to significantly weaken in the next 24 hours. And in the next 48 hours, likely a tropical depression. So models are starting to agree that this will not become a hurricane and will just now and has attained its peak intensity according to the models. Maybe could reach slight Cat 1 status in the next 12 hours, but National Hurricane Center still thinks it will make a hurricane landfall, which is no longer what the models think. So I wouldn't be surprised if at the 11 a.m. update we see the National Hurricane Center call for a tropical storm landfall or a very weak hurricane landfall, if any hurricane landfall from this system. But as always, it's been so unpredictable that we could see this climbing to Category 1 status in the next hours. So really, we still have to keep our guards on. We have been having the recon in there, finding the system, leveling off, and if not weakening. On today's recon, we've seen it at first pass at 991 millibars, and at second pass they found 994 millibars, which does show weakening of this system. And there's the potential it is weakening or at least leveling off. On the last recon flight, they ended with 993 millibars, I believe, or 995 millibars. Then we started strengthening a little bit more, and now we're seeing it weaken. So it seems to be leveling off, strengthening and weakening slightly in periods. But on the first recon pass, they found at least 70 mile per hour, and on the second pass, they only found up to 55 mile per hour, or up to 55 knots. So that does show maybe it has weakened slightly, but let me refresh that, by the way. But it is going to go in the second pass, as you can see, so we'll see what it finds on that second center pass. But other than that, it really seems to be leveling off in the low 990s. Which it's good news, and it's not continuing to rapidly intensify. So that is all good news right now. Now on to Tropical Storm Laura, which is really looking fairly good right now. Here's Tropical Storm Laura, and in my opinion, it looks better, and I think it could be stronger than Marco. And I'll tell you guys that why in the next couple of in the next slide there. But the center, according to the National Hurricane Center, is around here, which I do disagree. I think it's more south of that. I think the center's around down there. But according to the National Hurricane Center, the center went through the southern part here of Hispaniola, which is where the most mountains are. The tallest mountains there are on the southern part there. So really, it wasn't disturbed too much, and really is maintaining its intensity and convection. So that is bad news because it is about to pass that last little part of Hispaniola before heading towards Cuba there, and it hasn't weakened at all. Maybe slightly from 50 to 45 mile per hour. But it didn't disturb the center a whole lot, and we can see this still absolutely blowing up in convection. Which, you can see all this outflow here, inflow there. I mean, it really looks good. There's some banding to it here, some banding here, so it's really looking absolutely fantastic right now. And I'm going to show you guys why I think it's way higher than 45 mile per hour, like the National Hurricane Center says. The National Hurricane Center has it as 45 miles, 1,005 millibars. Unless your Laura brings to torrential rainfall after flooding the Dominican Republic and Haiti, which was expected from the system. Here's a track from the National Hurricane Center, and you can see it's right on the Dominican border, according to the National Hurricane Center. They've dropped the tropical storm warning here. I'm not too sure why, but I do think the center is more south of what they're saying. I think the center is down there, but again, I could be wrong, but that's from what I'm saying. But they do expect this to go through Cuba, all the way through Cuba, and then strengthening into a 100 mile per hour Category 2 hurricane at landfall in Louisiana. So they show landfall right here for the system, and for Marco, they show it making landfall right here. So that would be 2 landfall in Louisiana, 1 day apart pretty much, which could really be catastrophic for this area. Here's the current spaghetti models, and we've seen a little bit of a trend towards a storm more to the east or to the west once again, maybe even getting into the Texas-Louisiana border there, which would be good news and bad news. Good news for Louisiana because we might not get 2 landfall at the same exact location, but bad news for Texas, as they could maybe potentially get a landfall from this as the tracks continue to shift towards the west. Currently, one showed making landfall in Florida, and only one showed making landfall in eastern Louisiana, with both of them showing it making landfall on the Texas-Louisiana border now. So we'll see how that does evolve, and change with the National Hurricane Center track, whether they'll go with that or stay with their current predictions. Intensity guidance within this trend towards a stronger storm. Most models do keep it at around 45 miles per hour for the next around 36 hours, and it will be over Cuba. But once it gets into the Gulf, as you can see, it shows a rapidly intensifying to at least a Cat 1, if not a Cat 2, before weakening very rapidly in the next 84 hours. And as you can see, in the next 84 hours, it will be making landfall. So in the next 84 hours, they show it completely falling apart there, rapidly weakening, and then leveling off a tropical depression, of course. Two models bring it to Cat 3, one to Cat 4. But I personally think it will be a Category 2 hurricane, or at least a strong Cat 1, as most models anticipate to be this a strong Category 1. National Hurricane Center went actually with 100 miles per hour, which is a low-end Cat 2, which seems to be reasonable, but most models do bring it at around mid to strong Category 1 hurricane with this system. So we've seen Recon in here that just left the storm once again, and this is one of the main reasons why I think it is way stronger than 45 miles per hour. Now, as you know, those Recon flights that don't go onto land, but it went all around Dominican Republic, and look what it found on the northern side. It found 55 to 60 knots on the entire northern side. Keep in mind, the center, according to the National Hurricane Center, is down there. So if they found 50 to 60, that's 60 to 65 miles per hour. If they found 60 to 65 miles per hour north of the island there, guess what winds we could be seeing here near the center? We could have hurricane. We could be dealing with a hurricane already here if they're finding 65 miles per hour north of the system, and they haven't even gone to the center. They won't go there at all because it's going to be over Cuba, and they're not going to go over the center in Cuba either. They haven't even gone on the system. Let me refresh this in case they went somewhere else here. They haven't even gone on the system, and they're already finding winds of 60 to 70 knots. So how do you expect this to only be 45 miles per hour when they're finding those strong winds up there? And they haven't even gone. They're not going to be going to, but there's the center's all the way down there. So we could be dealing with, at least a 60 mile per hour storm there, if not a hurricane. And with the way it's looking, it's looking absolutely fantastic. I mean, I don't even know how the National Hurricane Center keeps it at 45 mile per hour. Look at the size of this thing. It's absolutely massive. It has very deep convection. It looks as good, if not better, as Marco. It even has somewhat of an iron radar on the Dominican Republic radar. And National Hurricane Center goes ahead and calls this 1,005 millibar, 45 mile per hour tropical storm, borderline tropical depression yesterday. I mean, I don't know how you can call this a borderline tropical depression with this, where you've got, look at this system. How does this look like? This looks at least like a 60 mile per hour storm there. I mean, even Recon tells you this. Even Recon tells you this. Look at it here. It found up to 60 knots on the entire way through north of the islands there. 60 knots in flight level winds. And if we look at the surface, it found at least 45 to 50 knot here on the surface there north of the island. So, and I've heard even in Puerto Rico, someone told me they were getting gust of 75, even one gust of 80 mile per hour there in Puerto Rico. And the National Hurricane Center said it was 40 mile per hour south of Puerto Rico when they were getting 60 mile per hour sustained winds or 50 mile per hour sustained winds. So I don't see how they can be 45 mile per hour. In my opinion, it's way, way, way stronger than that. And, even Recon, I mean, I don't even have to say anything else. Recon just tells you it right away. Just look at Recon there, 55 to 60 knots there. So, I mean, if they don't upgrade this to at least 50 mile per hour in the next advisory, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Obviously, I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing something, but to me, it seems weird that we're seeing this strong winds, and the National Hurricane Center just goes ahead and calls this thing a 45-mile-per-hour storm. Like, are you kidding me right now? But anyways, onto onto the conditions for those systems. So first off, Marco is currently in 25 knots of wind shear and will stay in 25-30 knots of wind shear its entire way through the Gulf of Mexico, which is why we inhibit its development. It could keep it as a tropical storm. But it doesn't seem to affect it too much right now. This easterly 25 knot wind shear. But we'll see if it affects it later on. But right now, it doesn't seem to have too much trouble with that. Laura is in almost no wind shear, 5 to 10 knots really. A little bit of wind shear on its back, 25 knots there. But really nothing too major. You can see this outflow there from the center of the storm there. But really not much not much stopping the system from strengthening. So really, we're going to be seeing the strengthening a whole lot more, I think. In terms of dryer, once again, look at Laura. Look at Laura. But anyways, Laura is looking absolutely massive. Compare Marco to Laura. I think Laura looks better, but no dryer at all for Laura. A little bit of dryer for Marco there, but really nothing significant. So we're gonna see how much the storm strengthens right now, but it is 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. So we'll see what they say at 11 a.m. Auxiliary, and we could see Laura a whole lot stronger than what they're saying, which could lead this entire track to show a stronger system. So really, we're gonna have to keep a close eye on it, but I'll have more updates tomorrow or tonight.